She had the ID, the receipt, even her name printed on the jet itself. But none of it mattered, because to them, she didn't look like someone who could own a plane. The Florida sun was already climbing past 83 degrees when Danielle Monroe stepped out of her black SUV onto the tarmac of the private jet terminal. She didn't flinch at the heat. She didn't slow down. She simply adjusted the cuff of her navy blue suit, slid her sunglasses into place, and walked, heels clicking, stride smooth, sure, and practiced. She was used to moving through the world like this, composed, efficient, and invisible, until she needed to be otherwise. Danielle had just wrapped 3 days at the Women Who Build conference in Miami, 3 days of mentorships, panels, and back-to-back keynotes. She'd stayed up until 1 a.m. the night before reviewing pitch decks for a young founder from St. Louis, then still managed to be on stage the next morning to speak about resilience in leadership. She wasn't there to impress anyone. She was the one people came to see. As she approached the steps of the waiting jet, a sleek silver Challenger 300 bearing a subtle DMO at the tail, her Bluetooth earpiece buzzed. It was her assistant, Simone. Flight plans filed, weather's clean to Birmingham. Snacks are on board. Oh, and one more thing, the pilot's new. Not the usual guy. Danielle barely registered the last part. Thanks, Simone. I'll check in once I'm airborne. At the base of the steps stood a man, tall, mid-40s, with a pressed navy uniform and mirrored aviator sunglasses. Clipboard in hand, the name tag read, Kessler. He looked up as she approached, but didn't move. Didn't smile. His posture was perfect, but his expression was tight, forced. "Good morning," he said, without a hint of warmth. "This flight is reserved for a Miss Danielle Monroe." Danielle paused at the first step. "That's me," she replied, calm, offering a faint nod. Kessler didn't respond immediately. Instead, he looked her up and down, first her face, then her suit. Then the branded Vector Hive laptop Boz G slung over her shoulder. And then, he chuckled. Not loudly, just enough to be heard. "I'm sorry," he said, straightening his shoulders. "There must be a mistake. This jet is already assigned to a confirmed passenger. Miss Monroe is listed as the primary." Danielle blinked once, slowly. "Yes, I know. I'm Danielle Monroe, founder of Vector Hive. This is my charter." Kessler's face twitched. A flicker of discomfort, maybe, regret even. But not enough to step aside. Instead, he moved in front of the staircase, subtly but deliberately. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm going to have to ask you to step back while we verify. I'm sure you understand security protocols." Danielle's pulse picked up, but she didn't raise her voice, didn't argue. She reached into the inside pocket of her blazer and pulled out her government-issued ID, the digital charter contract on her phone, and a photo of her sitting in that exact jet just 2 weeks earlier. She held them up, one by one. "I get it," she said, measured. "You're doing your job, but everything's in order. This jet is mine." Kessler barely glanced at the documents. He gave a shallow frown and muttered, "We've had cases of imposters before. I'll need to verify this with corporate." And just like that, like she was a stranger, a liar, a possible criminal, he turned away and picked up the radio. Danielle stood still, the sun on her back. Her name is on the jet behind him, and yet somehow she didn't belong. Inside the terminal, she could see other passengers boarding flights. No clipboard checks, no interrogations. A white woman in yoga pants and sunglasses breezed through security with a nod and a smile. Danielle looked back at Kessler and said it, not loud, just enough. "If I were a white man in khakis and a golf hat, you'd be handing me champagne by now." Kessler's jaw tensed, but he said nothing. She hit speed dial. Simone picked up immediately. "We've got a situation," Danielle said quietly. "I need you to call Charter Direct. Now." Just when she thought it couldn't get more absurd, another man walked over. This one is older, salt and pepper beard, wearing a manager badge. He didn't greet her, didn't acknowledge her at all. Instead, he joined Kessler, whispering and glancing sideways. Danielle folded her arms. She was done being patient. "While you two confirm a few things," she said clearly, "what exactly am I supposed to do? Wait out here like a stray dog hoping someone lets me in?" The older man gave a half shrug. "Standard verification, ma'am." "Standard for who?" He didn't answer. Danielle took a slow breath, held it, and exhaled. "I've had this charter contract for over 3 years. I fly out of Birmingham every other week. I don't just use this plane, I lease it. I pay the salaries on this route, including yours." Finally, Kessler looked up. You're saying you're Danielle Monroe? Danielle stared at him, unblinking. Yes, and I've said it 4 times now. Kessler tilted his head slightly. I'm just having trouble believing that. And there it was, not a security protocol, not a missing confirmation, just disbelief. Raw, filterless, human. Danielle took a single step forward, voice low but razor sharp. Say it out loud. Why is that? What part of me doesn't fit your idea of who could own this jet? Kessler looked away. His lips tightened, but Danielle didn't let up. He looked at me and decided I couldn't be her, not by mistake, not even by chance. And the worst part? She wasn't even surprised. Danielle Monroe had once pitched to a billionaire VC while her phone buzzed nonstop with texts from her babysitter. She'd calmly handled a live Q&A with 300 attendees while processing a miscarriage she hadn't yet told her husband about. She knew what resilience looked like. But this was something else entirely. Standing at the base of the her jet, papers in hand, being told she wasn't herself. It wasn't just insulting. It was systemic. And she could feel it inching into her bones like cold rain. Kessler, the pilot, still hadn't moved. His hands gripped the clipboard like it might shield him from what he refused to accept. The ground ops manager beside him was no better. His silence was complicity in a polished uniform. Danielle took a steadying breath and checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Simone. She called back. "Charter Direct's on it," Simone said, her voice clipped, urgent. "They're not happy. The regional liaison is en route now. Don't go anywhere." Danielle's jaw tightened. "Don't worry," she muttered. "I'm not exactly allowed to." She hung up and looked again at Kessler. "Would you at least care to explain what exactly you're trying to verify? You have my ID. You have the manifest. You have my jet with my initials on the tail. What's missing?" Kessler avoided eye contact again. His mouth opened, then closed. "It's just, we've had incidents," he mumbled. "People pretending to be someone they're not. We have to be cautious." Danielle stepped forward slowly and held her phone up. "You want incidents? How about this? 2 weeks ago, I flew this exact jet to San Diego. Same charter company, same interior, same tail number. Here's the selfie I took with the flight attendant. Her name was Maya. She remembered my tea order." She flipped to the next screen. The charter lease contract, signed and digitally stamped. "Here's the contract I signed. 5 years, paid up front. Check the routing number. It matches my corporate account." Next, an email confirmation from Charter Direct's VP of Operations, addressed to her by name. "Here's a thank you note for being their longest-standing female executive charter client. Any other receipts I should have laminated?" Still, Kessler hesitated. "This isn't personal, ma'am." "Oh," Danielle snapped, voice cold and sharp. "It's the most personal thing that's happened to me this month." The older manager stepped forward again, tone painfully diplomatic. "We just want to do our due diligence, Miss Monroe." Danielle cocked her head. "You do your due diligence with a scanner and a QR code. What you're doing now is stalling until someone tells you I'm allowed to exist." For a moment, silence, only the faint roar of jet engines in the background. Then another plane arrived. A white man stepped out in a hoodie and cargo shorts. He gave the staff a casual wave, and no one stopped him. No clipboard, no question. Just a cheerful nod from the same ground ops guy. Danielle laughed once, dry, disbelieving. "Let me guess, his name matches his vibe, right?" The manager flinched. "Ma'am? No. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what makes you hesitate. Is it my skin tone? The way my name doesn't end in the right consonant? Or is it that you've never seen someone who looks like me get out of a black SUV without being the assistant?" Kessler's lips moved, maybe to apologize, maybe to justify. Danielle didn't care. She was past explaining herself to men who had already decided who she couldn't be. 10 minutes passed. Danielle sat on a metal bench nearby, alone. Sweat beaded at her hairline, though her face remained composed. Her phone buzzed again, another message from Simone. "ETA, 8 minutes. Hang tight. Ria's furious." Danielle cracked a tired smile. 8 minutes. She could wait. But her dignity? That clock was ticking fast. A family passed by, 2 teenagers and their mother. The younger one, a girl, maybe 12 or 13, stared at Danielle. The mom whispered something and pulled her along. Danielle caught it. "Don't stare." But it wasn't the staring that stung. It was the fact that she looked out of place, to the girl, to the mother, to everyone walking past. She wasn't supposed to be here. At least, not in their eyes, not in ownership, not in command, not in control. She stood again as a sleek silver sedan pulled into the lot, tires whispering across the concrete. The driver's door opener and out stepped Rhea Kinley, regional liaison for Charter Direct. Sharp maroon suit, low black heels, a tablet in one hand, a phone in the other. Purpose in her stride. Danielle exhaled softly. Finally. Kessler saw her coming and instinctively stood straighter, still guarding the stairs like Danielle was a threat to national security. "Who's this?" he asked. Rhea didn't stop walking. "Rhea Kinley, corporate operations." She turned to Danielle. "Ms. Monroe, I am so sorry. You shouldn't have had to wait." Danielle nodded once but said nothing. Rhea turned to Kessler. "And you must be the new pilot on the Monroe contract." Kessler blinked. "Yes, ma'am. First week." "Great," Rhea replied, voice icy. "We'll be discussing your last week shortly." Kessler paled. "I was just following identity procedures. She had everything," Rhea cut in, flipping open the tablet. "You were supposed to scan the QR code on her digital confirmation, verify it with the tail number, and let her board. It takes 30 seconds. It's in your onboarding manual, page 2. Kessler stammered. "I was trying to avoid a breach. She's the one paying for the jet." Danielle finally stepped forward. "He told me to my face he didn't believe I could be me." Rhea didn't even blink. "Is that true?" Kessler hesitated. "Then, I didn't say it like that." "But you said it," Danielle interrupted. "Just dressed it up in protocol." Rhea turned to her, expression softening. "Would you like to board now?" Danielle glanced at the stairs, the ones that had been a barrier just moments ago, and nodded. "Yes, I would." She climbed one step, two, then paused, turned. Kessler stood there, face flushed, eyes darting. "I didn't mean to offend anyone," he blurted. "It's not about race." Danielle tilted her head. "Then what was it about? My height, my haircut, the brand of my shoes?" Silence. "You looked at a black woman with all the right documents, and your brain short-circuited." One more step. "I've been through TSA with fewer questions." Another. "If I were a tall white man in a Patagonia vest with a golf bag, you'd have offered to carry my luggage." No one moved. Not Rhea. Not the manager. Not Kessler. Rhea finally spoke, voice firm and flat. "Mr. Kessler, please leave your badge and credentials with the ops desk inside. HR will contact you." "Wait, are you firing me?" "That's all I can tell you for now." Danielle reached the top of the stairs, turned the handle, and disappeared inside. The cabin welcomed her with the subtle scent of leather and lavender. Cream seats, walnut trim, a brass plate by the door, Monroe, her space, her jet. Still, she sat down slowly, the weight of the morning settling on her shoulders like fog. She wasn't angry, not exactly. She was exhausted. Because this wasn't new. It was just recorded this time. The cabin door closed behind Danielle with a firm thunk, sealing off the noise of the tarmac and the stairs still clinging to her from the outside. She sank into the plush leather seat, cream-colored, custom-designed, the one she'd picked out herself. For a long moment, she didn't move. The brass plate by the cabin door read, Monroe. Her name, her jet. And yet she had to prove she belonged twice. The flight attendant, young and wide-eyed, approached gently. "Ms. Monroe, can I get you something to drink?" "Water," she replied. Her voice came out low, steady. "No ice." As the plane began taxiing, Danielle took out her phone, not to scroll, not to check emails, but to record. She flipped the camera toward herself. Her face looked exactly how she felt, collected on the surface, but underneath, tired, angry. Not the kind of anger that screams, the kind that settles, that burns slow, that refuses to be swallowed again. "I'm sitting here on my jet," she began, staring into the lens. "After being told I wasn't me, after showing ID, receipts, my name on the side of the plane, still wasn't enough." She paused, her eyes didn't blink. "I wonder how many black women every day go through things like this, quiet, unseen, unbelieved." She hit stop. She didn't say more, didn't dramatize it, didn't cry. Just the truth in 45 seconds of breathless honesty. And then, on a whim, she posted it. Not publicly, not yet, just to her close friends list on Instagram. Mostly women, mostly professionals. All of them, in one way or another, had stories like hers. What she didn't expect was what would happen next. By the time Danielle landed in Birmingham, her inbox was already full. Simone called before she could even unbuckle her seatbelt. "Your video," Simone said. "It's everywhere." "What do you mean everywhere?" 3 different women reposted it from your story. Then a nonprofit leader picked it up. Then, a black female surgeon added it to her reel. She said she was once escorted off a first-class seat she'd paid for, just because someone thought she was sneaking in. Wait, what? Danielle, you're trending. On Twitter, on LinkedIn, even Facebook. Danielle stared at her phone. There were hundreds of notifications, reactions, comments, messages from people she didn't know. But one stood out. A private message. It was short, from someone named Taryn Hull. Watched your video from my car in the Target parking lot. I cried. 2 months ago, a cop asked me why I was driving a Tesla. I didn't film. I just said yes and drove away. Wish I had done what you did. Thank you for making me feel seen. Danielle didn't reply right away. She just stared at those words. Thank you for making me feel seen. Later that evening, Danielle sat at her kitchen island, sipping tea, her dog curled up at her feet. The notifications hadn't stopped. Then the phone rang again. The number was flagged. Charter Direct, secure line. She hesitated, then answered. Miss Monroe, a calm voice said, this is Douglas Tran, CEO of Charter Direct. She froze. I wanted to call you personally, he continued. Not a PR statement, not damage control, just me. Danielle didn't say anything. She waited. I've reviewed the footage myself, listened to the terminal comms. It's clear, you were profiled, and we failed you, not just as a customer, but as a human being. The line went silent for a second. Then Tran said something she didn't expect. I'm also calling as a father. That stopped her cold. My daughter's 16, half black, half Vietnamese. Last year, a mall security guard accused her of stealing the dress she was wearing while holding the receipt. She never told me about it. I found out weeks later. Danielle exhaled. Something in her chest shifted. I can't undo what happened, Tran said. But I want you to know, it matters, that you spoke up, that you didn't stay quiet. She finally responded. I didn't plan to. I never hit record in situations like this, but this time the look on his face, it stayed with me. Tran was quiet again. We're terminating the pilot, effective immediately, but that's not why I called. I want to meet you, in person. No cameras, no press. I just want to listen. Danielle blinked. That wasn't what she expected. I'll think about it, she said quietly. The next morning, the video had passed 2.6 million views. It wasn't anger that made it viral. It was the quiet truth of it, the undeniable, heavy familiarity. The comments piled up by the thousands. I'm a black female engineer. Been mistaken for the receptionist more times than I can count. A Latino surgeon. Got asked 3 times if I was sure I was in the right operating room. Indian woman here. First class on Delta. Asked if I was using someone else's ticket. Thread after thread. Story after story. As if Danielle's voice had turned on a microphone in a room full of people who'd been whispering the same thing for years. 3 days later, Charter Direct released a public statement. But it wasn't the usual corporate fluff. It was raw. The title, We Failed Danielle Monroe, Here's Why That Matters. They admitted their identity protocols over-relied on visual confirmation. Their staff lacked implicit bias training. Their internal culture didn't account for clients who didn't look like the stereotype. The final paragraph stunned everyone. We've invited Danielle Monroe to speak directly to our board of directors, not as a victim, but as a builder. We don't want to fix this with a scholarship. We want to fix our system. Danielle took the invitation. 3 days later, she stood in a glass-walled boardroom in San Diego. 8 board members faced her. Some tense, some embarrassed, all silent. She wore the same navy blue suit from Miami, on purpose. No PowerPoint, no notes. Just her voice. I'm not here for a payout, she said, and I don't need a building with my name on it. I'm here because I built something, and I got treated like a fraud in front of my OT. She let it hang. That should scare every single one of you, not for your brand, but for what it says about how your people see black women in rooms we earned. A man at the end of the table shifted. Another finally spoke. His name tag read, Elijah Kim. My wife is black, he said. Once our neighbor asked if she was the housekeeper. I laughed it off. She didn't. And then, she stopped telling me about it. The room was quiet again. Danielle gave a small nod. Bias isn't always loud, she said. It wears a uniform, it smiles, it follows protocol, and it hides in the places no one audits, like assumptions. The board voted unanimously, top-down review, new training, new vetting systems, input from outside consultants, including Danielle herself. That night back in Birmingham, Danielle sat on her back porch, Her dog snored gently at her feet. She hadn't opened her email all day, didn't want to, but she scrolled on and saw a message from a neighbor she barely knew. "I showed my teenage son your video. He needed to see that. Thank you." She smiled, faintly. She didn't feel like an icon or a hero or a viral story. She just felt tired. But something had shifted. The silence wasn't so quiet anymore. Danielle Monroe didn't go to sleep that night until 3:12 a.m. Not because she was restless, not because she was anxious, because the world wouldn't stop speaking. After 3 years of running Vector Hive like a war general with a smile, after boardrooms filled with doubt and polished ceilings laced with glass, Danielle was used to pushing uphill. But nothing prepared her for what it felt like when the hill pushed back, with her standing at the top. Her phone had become a live wire. Every minute, a new message, a new name, a new voice. Not all of them were strangers. An old college professor wrote, "I watched the video in disbelief. Then I remembered the time a male student cut you off in class, and I let it slide. I should have said something. I'm sorry." A fellow founder, now Series B and headline famous, same jet company, same route. "I've never once been questioned. I'm a white dude in sneakers. I'm ashamed it took this to see it." And then there were the voices Danielle never expected. A 15-year-old in Michigan. "I saw your video. I'm not black, but I'm autist, and people think I'm dumb all the time. I cried when you said you felt invisible. I feel that a lot too." A black police officer in Atlanta. "I've worn this badge for 11 years, but your video hit different, because I've been Danielle, and I've been the pilot." But the moment that hit hardest didn't come through a comment. It came through a phone call. Her assistant Simone's voice cracked through the line. "You need to hear this," she said. Then came a new voice, male, elderly, deep and slow. "Miss Monroe, my name is William Greer. I don't know if this message'll find you. I'm 78 years old, a retired teacher. Watched your video 5 times this morning. Back in '63, I got stopped outside a cafe in Montgomery for looking too confident. They said I didn't look like I belonged. I'm old now. Ain't no more marches in my bones. But hearing you speak felt like someone picked up the torch. Just wanted you to know." Danielle didn't speak for a full minute. Not because she didn't have words, but because some things are heavier in silence. The media storm came next. CNN, MSNBC, even daytime shows. They didn't just want her to take. They wanted her face. They wanted her to cry on cue. Wanted her to break down. She said no to all of it. Not because she was ungrateful, but because she refused to let them turn her pain into programming. Instead, she posted a second video. This one was different. She sat at her dining room table. No filters. No edits. "I didn't post that first video to start a movement," she began. "I posted it because I felt violated and tired. And for once, I didn't want to carry it alone." She looked directly into the lens. If someone has ever made you feel like you didn't belong in a place you earned, say your name. Tell your story. Because silence doesn't protect us. It just protects the system that benefits from us staying small. That clip, 5 million views in 36 hours. But more importantly, it started something. Hashtag after hashtag, thread after thread. Black women in tech, indigenous women in medicine, queer women in politics, disabled veterans, single fathers, all sharing moments they'd once buried, now finally breathing again. Even Charter Direct didn't expect what would come next. They'd assumed the public statement would suffice, but it didn't, because the people didn't want PR, they wanted policy. A week later they released a follow-up. "We are not just reviewing protocols, we are re-engineering culture. Danielle Monroe will join our advisory board as a permanent equity consultant, not as a favor, as a correction." Danielle didn't smile when she read it. She nodded. Not out of pride, but out of relief. Because this time, the moment wasn't just loud. It echoed. She walked into her neighborhood coffee shop the next morning, hoodie on, headphones in, just needing caffeine. But the barista, a young white woman with tired eyes and chipped nail polish, paused mid-pour. "Miss Monroe?" Danielle blinked. I just wanted to say thank you," the girl whispered. "My mom showed me your video. We don't have the same stories, but I think I finally understood something, and I told her I want to go back to school." Danielle smiled. Soft, real. Then it was worth it. That night she sat alone on her porch. The wind is warm, the stars are steady. Her phone vibrated again. She ignored it. Instead, she opened her journal, the one she hadn't touched in months. She wrote just one line. Sometimes the moment chooses you, but the voice is yours. And finally she exhaled. 1 week after the video hit 10 million views, Danielle Monroe stood in front of a high school auditorium in Atlanta. Not a stage she planned to be on, and certainly not for this reason. There were no spotlights, no flashy AV setups, just rows of students, most of them black and brown, sitting in worn-out chairs under buzzing fluorescent lights. She wasn't there to talk about tech, or fundraising, or how she built a company from the ground up. She was there because someone on the school board had called and said, "We showed your video in homeroom. They've never seen someone like you talk like that. They asked if you'd come speak." So she came. No entourage, no talking points. Just her, standing behind a wooden podium with a crack in the corner and the school's logo peeling off the front. "A lot of people think I went viral because I was humiliated," she said. "But that's not why. I went viral because I hit record, because I decided the moment wasn't going to end in silence." She looked out at the crowd. "I don't know what you've been told about yourselves. Maybe someone said you were too loud, too soft, too much. Maybe you've been mistaken for the intern when you were the boss, or the assistant when you were the client. Maybe you've walked into rooms and felt them shrink around you." She took a breath. "I've lived that. In boardrooms, on planes, even in my neighborhood. But here's what I need you to remember. You don't need permission to belong. You already do. The moment you stop apologizing for your presence is the moment everything changes." After the applause died down, students lined up to speak to her. One girl, barely 17, tears threatening to spill. "I want to be a lawyer," she whispered. "But every time I say that out loud, people act surprised, like I'm crazy for thinking I could get there." Danielle didn't offer her a quote or a hashtag. She simply asked, "Do you believe you can?" The girl nodded, eyes burning. "Then don't ever let someone else's disbelief be louder than your conviction." That night, Danielle returned home to find a box at her door. No name, just a crisp white envelope on top. Inside was a bouquet of yellow lilies and a handwritten note. "Thank you for reminding me why I took this job in the first place. Rhea Kinley." Danielle smiled, small, genuine, tired. She walked into her kitchen, placed the flowers in water, and opened the window. Outside, the street hummed with the normalcy of life. Traffic lights blinking, distant laughter, a dog barking at shadows. And somewhere in that stillness, she understood something new. This wasn't about a pilot, or a jet, or a viral video. It was about the quiet erosion of dignity that people like her were expected to endure. The small humiliations that added up, the daily reminders that some doors still creaked shut behind you. But now, those doors, they were starting to crack open. Danielle didn't become a martyr. She didn't run for office. She didn't write a book. She simply kept showing up, louder, prouder, more unapologetic than ever before. Because now she knew. She wasn't just reclaiming her place. She was clearing a path for someone else to find theirs. And that was enough.